Prime Minister Netanyahu recently mentioned that the people in the West who are anti-Israeli, a lot of them happen to be anti-American as well. And we are seeing, like, for a while, we saw the right-leaning anti-Israeli people to act like they're pro-America and America first, but anti-Israeli, like they're patriots, and their patriotism motivates them to be their pro-American patriotism is what motivates them to be anti-Israeli. But now, surprise, we're actually seeing that they're using the anti-imperialist narratives, exactly the anti-imperialist, the anti-so-called imperialist narratives that people from the communist and socialist left have been using for decades, right? So we basically played a whole bunch of videos from Canary Mission. With At first, I mean, we started with the right leaning one, but then we played some videos from DSA members and the Palestinian Youth Movement activists that were basically making it very clear that when they say anti-imperialism, they are talking about destroying America. I'm not interpreting what they were saying. They were saying this directly, like they weren't hiding it. And not only that, they were bragging about the fact that they're now in Congress and in the halls of power of the United States. And let's be honest, this is a growing movement. You might say like they're still insignificant compared to the rest, but it is a growing movement. And someone's mic is open. Okay, it is a growing movement, and it is something that we need to respond to. We also showed some other DSA members that they said they're against the imperialist West and destroying the concept of America. They were very clear about the fact that their entire goal is destroying America. So, for example, one of them was quoted saying the most important thing we can do is, is to take American empire down from within. So remember, the word empire is very important because it also is used as a shield to pretend like they're not talking about destroying America, the same way that people who are anti-Zionist, they claim not to be anti-Jewish, and they use anti-Zionism as a cover. So a lot of these people say they're against American empire, and then when you ask them what does American empire mean, you understand that it's just basically anti-American, so anti-America as a whole. Some of them were saying that they were going to destroy America as a concept overall. Some of them were saying they're against American empire. But anything, when you see what the definition of empire is, you realize destroying American empire requires the full destruction of the nation state model. So it's not just anti-American, it's basically anti every country that exists. The communists and the Muslims have a similar understanding that the current existing global model of nation states is a Western model, and the whole thing needs to be basically burned to the ground. And I wish more people understood how this is not just anti American, but it's just anti the world, because the entire world is basically operating on that model. So the Muslims and communists, they have their own world model. And for that to ever happen, the entire world model that currently exists needs to be destroyed. But then what we're seeing now is that we played some videos from people like Nick Fuentes, from what's his name? Alex Jones, Tucker Carlson, and many other people on the right who are basically started. It's been a while now that they are also using the language that they're against the American empire, right? So they're saying that they're isolationist, so they want an America that is not an empire. But again, based on this is again the beginning of just being anti. I mean, it's not the beginning; they are anti-American, but this is the beginning of them basically removing the mask and coming out and basically making it more clear that they're just anti-America. Because again, these same people, if you start talking to them about what empire means, you realize that everything that makes America, that's what they're against. So I just wanted to give you a short summary of what me and Monkey were reviewing earlier today. But I also want to ask you, given that both of these movements are growing, can America in your opinion, survive this? I mean, I personally am optimistic about America's future, but this is something that a lot of people are seeing, and they think that it's growing both on the left and the right, and it's basically anti, Americanism inside America. These are not the enemies from outside. These are a growing movement on both the left and the right that are basically from within, that are just against everything that America is for. And are you optimistic that America could survive this? And if yes, why? So I see we have a lot of twos on this topic.
Yes, Sherry is first. Go ahead.
First of all, absolutely 100%. America's going to survive this crap. I have recently, I don't know if everybody recalls here anything about the Tea Party, but Rubio was actually elected during the Tea Party movement. And I've been out of pocket for a while, but I've gotten in contact with them, and they are 100%. Everybody in the Tea Party, they may not be having rallies, they may not be on the media, et cetera, but they are still in the background working very hard. And right now, their focus is the midterm election. Also, I believe that FIFA being here in America has also boosted a indirectly, unintentionally, truly wakened the American spirit on being proud and loud and proud again. Seeing people from Europe coming here and enjoying the heck out of us and our communities and our traditions and our food, etc. They really, that unintentionally has become a huge part of it. Now, as far as things go with Congress and elections versus reality, but America's just, there's too many of us that are not represented, that are loud and proud inside, and it's just not going to happen. I think, Armin, you are part of this. I think Monkey is part of this. I think most everybody, Jeff, most everybody here. Doc, there's a lot of people here involved who may be Americans or may not be Americans, but we need to the American people. We got Tom McDonald. We have several celebrities and people out there who are crushing and living it up. Are we going to defeat the quote media in 24-hour news all the time? No, we're not on the messaging, but the people with between X and TikTok and all the avenues that we have at our fingertips are able to counter this. So I absolutely 100% believe that America's not only going to survive this, but we're going to come back. The pendulum, it's good. It's going to swing. It's going to swing so hard towards the right. I also don't believe in any way, shape, or form that Tucker Carlson's or anything, they're not on the right in any way, shape, or form. So I hate, don't call them the woke. They're just communist, Islamist apologists, as far as I'm concerned. And after you get to leave, Armin, I would love an opportunity to talk to, as the first official greaser, I would like to talk to the Grease Monkey on a couple things to help this movement go forward.
Oh, fantastic. After I leave or during our call, during our group call?
No, after you leave, there's a lot of people who want to talk to you. I'm not taking up
Oh,
your time, darling.
All right,
oh,
You got a
then
lot
I
of
will go
fans
to
here.
the
Let them
other
talk.
people that want to talk. Cat lady.
they, oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, so a couple of things. First of all, I wanted to do a whole show in my channel about Tucker Carlson, but right now he's doing a massive like campaign of copyright striking everyone who shows anything about him. So be careful, Armin. Be careful not to show a lot of or any Tucker Carlson's clips. He's hired a company. He's like striking down many creators. And I just want to tell you, like the things that I collected from Tucker Carlson. For example, he is talking on his show. One thing that I remember, he's saying the anti war right and the anti war left should unite. And he said, I quote from my memory, so it's not word for word, but he said, I know this system is too much, too corrupt. It has to all come down. I just really hope that whatever comes afterwards is okay. He says it like that. Definitely. And by the way, they're not trying to, like what Tucker Carlson does now in him saying I'm no longer a Republican and all that, they're trying to do what the DSA did to the Democrats, to break it down and take over. And the DSA did it with the Democrats, let's face it. Yeah. And so be careful, Amrin. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Siddhartha is next.
Okay, I have this idea that I've been kicking around for a while, and I don't really feel like it's really half baked, but I just feel like the discussion here, it's so relevant that I want to introduce it and maybe workshop it a little bit. But specifically, the issue is this, right? So yes, there is this. I've sensed this for a while. Like anytime I have encountered American or Western anti-Zionists, these are typically people on the left, like they will openly acknowledge their hostility to America, right? And then they're quite proud of it. And the Palestinian flag is essentially their own sort of ideological symbol. It's more important to them than the American flag. So and that's why I was traveling in Europe recently, and I would occasionally see the Palestinian flag pop up randomly, in northern Italy. And so it's sort of like it's become a sort of catch-all symbol of a Western oikophobia, right? So, but now what you're talking about is this movement on the right, which, in my mind, they are really trying to redefine what it means to be American. Now, that the idea of what an American is or what America is now disputed, right? And so they're saying like, oh no, the patriotic thing is to be isolationist, to be anti-Israel. And then they have like a basket of other things, like it seems like increasingly more sort of like command economy, anti-immigration, anti like xenophobia. So and there are there's within the critiques on the right, on the radical right and the radical left, there's some aspects of it that I even have some empathy for, but the entire package is totally anathema to me, and I think is dangerous. Now, what the idea that I want to introduce is the idea of, I'm calling it paradigmatic Zionism. Okay, so there is particular Zionism, which is the Zionism of the Jews in the Levant. And then there is this other idea, which I call paradigmatic Zionism, which is Zionism as a civilizational model. So when I look at the Zionist camp versus the anti-Zionist camp, what I see in the anti-Zionist camp is that these people can unite around the idea of destroying Israel, but they're going to have to kill each other in order to get what they want. Whereas the Zionists can live in peace with each other. And what do I mean by Zionists? I mean, of course, Jews, I mean, Druze, even Arab Zionists, even Muslim Zionists, even Chinese Zionists, American Zionists. We all, as Zionists, can accept each other. Right? So even take, for example, like the dispensationalist Christian Zionists. Their idea of what Zionism means to them is that, okay, we need basically the Jews to control the Holy Land so that when Jesus returns, it's a condition necessary for Jesus' return, for the rapture, and then all the Jews will go to hell. I mean, that's not their intention, right? It's not their intention to send the Jews to go to hell. I think they would want Jews to accept the Messiah and so on. But the point is that that the radically different worldviews, it's possible for them to live together. And this is true even of the Arab Zionists and the Muslim Zionists. I realize that this is a very fringe sort of sliver of those populations. But my point is that they exist. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I think that this paradigmatic Zionism is part of the strategy to defeat the other side, the anti-Western side. Right, is because we have to exploit their differences, their radical differences. Queers for Palestine and Hezbollah cannot survive alongside each other. There is no possible compromise between these groups, right? And the same is true of the communists, and the same is true of the National Socialists or this is sort of emerging movement on the right. They all have to completely subdue the other. So they can, while Israel exists, they can unite around that. But I think we need to start to expose their own differences, put it in their face, and continually agitate those differences against them.
All right, thank you, Siddhartha. Let's go to Jeffrey next.
Yeah, that was a very interesting piece you and Sketch did today. I actually watched it live, and you touched on a lot of things that me and a lot of other guys have been fighting against for 25 years, right? Which is you have radical leftists that are holdovers whose centers of gravity are universities that find their origins in Soviet active measures waged within and against the United States during the Soviet era of the Cold War that continued on even after the structural deficiencies of the socialist Soviet economy undermined the ability of the Soviet Union to sustain itself long enough to try and realize the return of the poison they injected into the United States like venom. You have that amplified, co-opted, or capitalized on by post-Soviet era adversaries as a means to pursue gray zone conflict or strategic information influence operations stabilization efforts. So what? Putin's criminalized counterintelligence states hybrid warfare, Chinese Communist Party's unrestricted warfare, Mullah regime and all the horrors they fucking deal with, North Korean regime, sub-state terrorist organizations, and the rest of it. The reason you're seeing more of that occur, again, in part, is because all of those different elements are being either directly or indirectly supported or amplified by any number of U.S. adversaries as a means to pre-stress the United States and our allies socioculturally before the onset of a high-intensity world war. And as far as the crossover is concerned between, say, the non-interventionist right and or the radical left, I'm going to give you 3 examples that you might want to look up, and they're actually centers of gravity examples of this. So you have the Quincy Institute that was created by George Soros and Charles Koch immediately following the terrorist attack of September 11th, whose stated purpose was to engage in advocacy research with the stated goal of undermining national will regarding U.S. interventionist foreign policy. Then you had the Rage Against the quote unquote war machine. This was a bunch of radical, like leftists and or non-interventionists on the right, or those that have infected the right. Did put out all kinds of different stupid ass events. Me and my buddies went to it to do some intelligence gathering. It was right before the the rally to support Ukraine and or Israel in DC. And you'll see the speakers there. You have Maxie Pad Blumenthal, whose dad was Clinton's black bag man. You have right wingers like not neocons, like pseudo libertarians and all those kinds of people, yip yap. And I think they actually had Adam Kokesh there. So yeah, you're not wrong. Like, this is something that has to be dealt with. How do you maintain a core element of national solidarity, which is the foundation of national will, defined as supportive policies in peace and wartime, when you increasingly have these kinds of elements being amplified by our enemies to take down or fragment the United States? I mean, as someone who very much is a victim of and or a opposition to, and rightly so, the Mullah regime and now regime remnants that illegally occupies Iran, or at least for the moment until we finish liberating Iran. I mean, what happened? How did the noble house of Pahlavi get taken down? The Red-Black Alliance. Well, what was part of the Red-Black Alliance? The Red was pro-Soviet leftists, many of them via active measures and propaganda, untrue propaganda, undermine the perception of legitimacy of the noble house of Pahlavi to sit there and erode support for His Highness Mohammed Reza Pahlavi, the Shah, and that directly contributed to the downfall of the Shah. There's a reason that a lot of anti-Mullah elements in diaspora immediately following the terrorist attack of October 7th against our Israeli allies. I'll never forget it. They're like people who are like American of Iranian descent that are very much part of the anti-Mullah diaspora. He posted it on my Facebook, and it was telling. He said, those that lived through and suffered the occupation of 1979 look at leftists and Islamic fundamentalists marching down the streets in unison read the Red Green Alliance with a deep sense of dread and trepidation because they've seen this movie before and they know how it ends. So yeah, that has to be fought against. And you're playing, everybody here plays a role in that, whether it's non-lesser kinetic approaches towards countering it. You're dealing with the non-kinetic elements. Very needed.
Thank you. Next on the list, I have Texas Troop.
All right, I am back. Okay, so I wanted to answer Armin's question, will America survive this, right? And what we've all been answering. And so I say that the answer to that question is yes. America will survive this infection of the right with the isolationists, the anti-Israel faction, you know, the extreme libertarians, like what Jeffrey was talking about. And the squeezing of the American middle by the extreme left and extreme right, because that's what's happening. I think we all see it. I think even regular Americans are starting to see it, because I think that's part of what's reflected in that poll I shared earlier, and they're not happy about it. And why I say we will survive it is because if we look back in our history, I'm always going to go back into some point in our history. If we look back in our history as a country, we've been through this before. This is not the first time. It just feels probably a little bit more pronounced because we have social media, right? So we're seeing it happen, play out in real time, rather than through other mediated communication that was slower. So we have a super fast news cycle, like what Sherry mentioned earlier, 24 hours. And so we're seeing it happen faster. So it feels like it's more, but really we've been through it before and we have defeated it before. Is it going to take us all working to get rid of it, to eradicate it, especially from those who identify as a Republican? They're going to have to purge their party. They cannot allow what is being allowed in the Democrat Party. And I don't think that the Republicans will allow it. I think they will purge the party. So will we survive? Yep, because we have before. We have to remember our national identity, and our national identity is that Americans are patriotic. They do not hate Israel. It is embedded in the DNA fabric of this country to not hate Israel. So even if someone does not identify with a religion in America, it's still in their DNA because it's been here from the 1600s when the Pilgrims first came. I think we will survive. I don't think it's going to be easy. I think it's going to be hard, and I think it might get a little bit ugly. But Trump has already disavowed most of Podcastistan. He's already said it. He's already said Tucker is not MAGA. Megyn Kelly is not MAGA. Candace Owens is not MAGA. He's already called them out. So his base, the MAGA party, well, the MAGA portion of the Republicans, which are really the Tea Party, they are not into this, and they are not happy, and they are pissed, and they will purge it. So that's what I got to say.
I'm so glad you're here, Texas. You're such a great addition.
Thank you.
Thank you, Texas. I have Roy next. Roy?
Well, I'm it's not that I disagree with you, Texas. It's that I'm maybe a little bit of a nihilist. I don't know. I'm trying to be positive, but it's it's hard to get in. It's hard to get those meds, positive meds. But yeah. It's listen. It's the question is not if America is going to survive this or not, because I think it's not a question. America is going to survive it. The question is, the real question is, how much damage is going to be done with this movement? And I think this is something that we need to be very careful with, because We are living in the age of misinformation and disinformation. The lies who are being spread about Israel, about Iranian diaspora, about Hindu nationalists, and about so many people are traveling in the speed of light. And I think the problem is not about, conservatives or Democrats, because in the end, what do they want? They want the votes, right? They want people who will vote for them. So if something becomes popular because of millions of Chinese bots who are squeezed into one little box, like million of little Chinese people just like, ching chong ping pong doing like all this stuff, are telling them, oh yes, hate Israel, yes, yes. So that's gonna happen. That's what's gonna happen. They're gonna, if you're gonna be even Marco Rubio, if too many people in America are going to believe the lies that you need to disconnect of Israel because they're stealing billions and billions of dollars and controlling America, it's gonna happen, unfortunately. But I do want to come back to another point that Siddhartha said, and I really think that you're correct on the position. And I wanna, first of all, I love you, bro, and also respect you. I think we need to mobilize. Right now, what we're doing is very much defensive. We can't always be like defensive, always like correcting people and telling them, listen, Israel is not like this. Listen, the Iranian diaspora is not like this. And we need, this is fine. I'm not saying it's not good. It's fine. But we need a counteractive maneuver. And I think one of the things that we can do is what Siddhartha say about flipping the narrative. Also, one other thing that we can do is also use the whole left agenda and the whole racism thing and the whole racism card against them. People are trying in the Middle East to distance themselves more and more from being Arabs, being called Arabs, Algerians, Moroccans, Persians, absolutely, right? They really hate that. So if you continue with this, write it, tell people in their face, if you call us, I'm a Mizrahi Jew from Israel. If you call me an Arab Jew, this is racist. I'm sorry. Put them in their place. And I'm not saying it lightly. Don't just do it. Make videos about it. Present it to them. Tell them in their faces more and more, again and again and again. Start driving this into their brain. They're not going to get it for the first time. They're not going to get it in the second and the third and the fourth time. It's going to take years. It's going to take years. The same way that the lie about the Palestinian lie has been driven and drilled into people, into their brains. But this is not a lie. This is the real narrative. People in the Middle East have had enough of being called Arabized people. They are not Arabs. And I think if you use that and you start to divide the countries and say, people want to be a part of a nation. You want to be a Muslim nation? Fine, whatever. But I don't care. But don't lump all of those people up. Don't forget who colonized you. Don't forget what happened. And this is the history that we need to push forward. That's my take.
All right, thank you, Roy. Let's go to Monkey next. Monkey?
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about American politics, right? We're talking about American politics. We're talking about the DSA and people trying to do what the DSA did to the Democrats in the Republican Party through people like Candace Owens, people like Tucker Carlson, right? Yes, we have to be careful about sharing and using their clips. Like I had a whole translation channel, but it's too difficult because of copyright issues. So you got to be very careful of copyrights, right? So we're worried about the midterms and American politics. I think the number that Texas, correct me if I'm wrong, said that the interest is in this international stuff is around 4%. So putting your efforts into making difference between one foreigner and another foreigner, that's not going to go far here. If you want to win the midterms, that's not going to get you any ground. What's going to gain you some ground is to tell Americans why it is in their best interest, why it's good for your pockets. I don't remember the number, but you said like the international interest was low. Maybe I'm misremembering the number. but that American, when it comes to these international things, they're way more interested in national things. So how do you do that? Well, you show how these people are aligned with the left. These people are claiming to be the most right of right, the most conservative of conservative. When you mirror them with the far left, it takes away their credibility. That one of the things that I like about what Canary. Okay, it might have been a different poll. It's talking about a different poll. My point, my larger point is to get to an American, you can't tell them you have to care about this race thing that I have with this other guy that has this race thing. That's not going to work. And if you're talking about these bots, let me explain something. Elon bought Twitter, right? Before that, what we had was an echo chamber. I'll tell you something else. They blocked Trump's Twitter account. We had these echo chambers of leftists. We had this place where we couldn't talk, we couldn't express ourselves. All we had was these bots expressing their views, and all we had was this echo chamber of bots where we couldn't fight this. What we get called racist or this or that to an American, we don't like that. We're sick of the fucking race discussion. We're sick of, oh, you're a racist and the racist is just talking about racism to a conservative. We're sick of this shit. We don't care. I'm not a racist. I don't care what you think. I'm not a racist. No, but this race and that guy and that. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I got my own problems. I'll help you if you have a good cause, but you can't muddy me up with all your personal issues with your neighbor. If you want me to help me, show me why it's in my best interest. Show me why it's in my best interest to help you. It is in our best interest to help Iran. It is in our best interest to help Israel. We have to make that clearer, and we have to show how the DSA is a lot closer to Tucker than the Democrats and the rest of the Republican Party. That's where your moneymaker is. That's why the mining canary, the canary video is impactful, because it shows that mirror between Hassan Piker and Tucker Carlson. Oh, it's just two sides of the same coin. Oh, Candace Owens and Hinkle. Oh, it's just two sides of the same coin. Now, when you put it like that's impactful, that's shocking. Oh, I thought this guy was on my side, but he's just saying the same shit that this other guy on the other side was saying. That short, impactful contrast is very important. That will get you more traction. I'm going to be talking today about preventive maintenance checks and services. That's what I'm going to be discussing today. How can you prevent, check, and service the people about these kinds of dichotomies? I want to get into that video and more examples like this that show that Tucker is just another Jason, another Hinkle. He's just another Cenk Uygur. I want to show the mirror to show people, hey, these two guys are the same thing. You think you're on the right, but these guys are just repeating things that the left has been saying for years. So don't fall for it. These guys are not your friends. They're infiltrators. You're going to have infiltrators in this channel. You're going to have infiltrators in any group you have. They're going to go to every channel. They're going to come pretend to be concerned, start concern trolling, and try to go against your best, right? Who does Tucker attack? Who does Candace attack? She attacks Turning Point. Why? Because Turning Point is one of their best assets. That's why she does it. She knows that's a good asset, so that's what she's attacking. You're gonna have people in here who are gonna attack maybe Ali or Guy on some technicality or something, and you're gonna see that kind of thing happen in smaller channels, just like it happens on bigger channels. So be careful of that. You got to have preventive maintenance checks and services in your brain, in your strategy, in your operating, I wouldn't say operating system, but in your modus operandi. So that's where I would go. You got to find where the meat of it, where the interest, the big interest is, and attack that, because the midterms are coming. And if you focus in on a topic that doesn't have any traction, you're just wasting time.
All right, thank you, Monkey. Samantha is next.
I think it's like basic human need to like feel patriotic and to like feel that sense of like, yeah, I'm part of this group and I'm like patriotic about this group and proud of myself for being patriotic about this group. And because like So I think the anti-patriotic left, how they go about handling this need is they basically substitute this need by feeling patriotic about Palestine and projecting their desire to be patriotic into Palestine and feeling like, oh, I'm pro-Palestine. And because the way they have the Palestinian flags everywhere, it's literally, it almost looks like they are patriotic Palestinians in a way. So I think that's how they go about substituting the need for feeling patriotic. And also, I would say, you know, when you force people to choose extremes, they might not choose the extreme you want them to choose. And all I'm going to say is if all Americans had health care, there'd be a little bit less resentment about America amongst Americans.
So I want all people, not just all Americans, to have healthcare. Just to be clear, I agree with you that it's a good goal to make sure that everybody has access to healthcare. We just disagree on the method to get there, right? I think the best way to get healthcare to the highest number of people is by lowering the price and increasing the quality through the private sector with maximum competition. And after you manage to bring the price as low as possible, there will still be some people who will be left behind. And with them, we either do negative tax or UBI. So I just believe like using methods that doesn't mess with the supply and demand of the market. So we do everything we possibly can with the private market with highest competition to lower the price and increase the quality. We don't get the government involved on the supply side. After that, because there will still be some poor, if you just put the money in the hands of the people who can't afford healthcare, even after you lower the price to the minimum, and then they would be able to afford healthcare. That's the way. That's the way you get people healthcare, not by getting the government to supply it.
My name is Armin Navabi. I'm an Iranian political analyst with decades of experience fighting the Islamic regime inside and outside of Iran. Make sure you follow me for more, and also make sure you join our discussion group. I'm there almost every single day. Come talk to me there and the rest of the people there in our group calls. It's a great place to meet and talk to people who like talking about politics. The link is in the description and or in the bio. You could also get there by scanning the QR code on the screen. See you there.